The second speaker for the opposition team will continue their team's case.
Testing. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How can our side affirmative convince us to accept a policy without the support of evidence? A successful family policy needs evidence on what works in parenting. However, according to the report of the UK Social Mobility Commission 2017, there is a lack of long-term evidence about what parenting interventions work best. Ladies and gentlemen, instead of proposing a new family policy, our side would rather think how to fine-tune our current practice in order to further meet the changing needs of our parents and children. A successful family education program must have clear and specific goals. Take Hong Kong as an example. The Family Planning Association of Hong Kong give advice to those who plan to have babies. The Department of Health offers family health service to those who have newborn babies. For the teenage parents, associations like the Mother's Choice can give lots of support to them. The Social Welfare Department has launched a project to help the divorced couples. Of course, the current practice needs improvement when facing a number of challenges, owing to the changing needs of our society. First, the government can make full use of the internet and e-resources, so parents can get the information at any time and any place. Moreover, the government should promote family-friendly workplace policies so that parents can have financial support. To tackle the problems by the increasing divorce rate, a long-term home visits programs by social workers should be introduced in order to help those to get over their difficult time in life. For the teenage parents, instead of asking them to attend classes right before they have babies, the curriculum on family education should be strengthened in their secondary school curriculum. It is easier for the young people to be instilled the correct value of being a responsible parent. All these measures are more comprehensive and suit different people's needs. Ladies and gentlemen, fine-tuning the current practice about parental education is better than today's proposal. Therefore, today's motion must fall. Thank you.
Thank you. The debater has used 2 minutes and 25 seconds. No points will be deducted. The floor time session is about to begin. There are 3 floor questions for each team. 1 minute will be allocated to the floor speaker who raises questions. Any team member will have 1 minute to answer the question. A bell will rung at 45 seconds and 1 minute respectively. There is no grace period. The first question will first go to the affirmative team. Students from the opposition side shall begin first by posing questions to the affirmative. The first floor speaker from the opposition team, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to ask the affirmative side a question. In reality, parental irresponsibility is not exactly a serious social problem. And so, investing so much time and money into this would seem like a waste of precious resources. We don't need state education which interfere in our private lives. How would compulsory classes change parenting methods of irresponsible parents, and who dare claim to be the cause organizers? How long, how deep, and how far shall this go on? Thank you.
Any debate on the affirmative?
Testing. Thank you for the question. You mentioned that how long it should exist and how we should run this program. However, we think that this is not related to our motion today. And our perspective claims that compulsory parental education is aimed to enhance the parents' quality in more effective teaching. So this is not become a financial burden to both government and parents. And we think that it is necessary and useful for parents to adopt compulsory parental education. Thank you.
The first floor speaker from the affirmative team, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Here's a question for the opposition team. If teachers need compulsory education and qualification to educate and nurture children, why shouldn't parental education be compulsory, as parents play a more vital role in in a child's development?
Any debater from the opposition team?
Thank you for your question. As mentioned in my first speech, I've already told you that the proposal is wrong in principle. Having babies and raising up children is a private matter. Only parents know which parenting class works best for them. The government cannot force the parents to use a method that they may not want. And also, the compulsory education won't guarantee the quality of parental care. For example, when you are having a talk in a school hall, it is likely that you will not pay attention and will fall asleep easily because you are forced to do something that you find boring. Thank you.
The second floor speaker from the opposition team, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hong Kong is the world's most expensive city, and Hong Kong people are always in a hurry. The professionals such as doctors, lawyers, and bankers have to work long hours, whereas low-income families have to work day and night in order to sustain their humble living. How would your side cater to parents who have to work double shifts or have no time to attend your classes? How would they be able to spare their time schedules for parenting lessons? Thank you.
Any debaters from the affirmative team?
Thank you for your question. Now, if these people have no time to take these parenting lessons, then will they really have time to take care of their children? If they really do not have time for these lessons, then these parents should reconsider whether they should really have children or not. Thank you.
The second floor speaker from the affirmative team, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Here's a question for the opposition team. Without compulsory parental education, how can you ensure that resources and information are significant, reliable, and widely available? Thank you.
Any debater from the opposition team?
No, there are many existing plans. We have the Family Planning Association, the Department of Health, the Social Welfare Department, the Mothers of Choice, and the different school curriculum of different ages. Thank you.
The third floor speaker for the opposition team, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Parenting is a basic human right that people are born with. Parenting courses should not be treated like driving courses. Parents do not need a license to give birth. In the future, will everything we want to have come under the compulsory requirement of a license? After taking the course, the parents themselves may not want any children at all. So, why does the government have a right to intervene parenting matters, even in situations where the parent has no fault and the children have suffered no harm? Thank you.
Any debater for the affirmative team?
Testing. Thank you for your question. We would like to clarify that parenting is our responsibility, but not a right. And by offering compulsory parental education, we ensure that every people can receive the basic knowledge and skills for effective parenting, but not giving them a bad influence. Instead, if you mentioned that some people they don't want children, how can you guarantee that a part of people they will have children at different stages? Thank you.
The third floor speaker from the affirmative team, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. There is a question for the opposition team. Do you assume that all parents will be well equipped with enough knowledge, skills, and support necessary for the challenges of child rearing if we do not make parental education compulsory? Thank you.
Any debater for the opposition team?
Thank you for your question. Can the affirmative side ensure that after taking a compulsory course, parents with problems and all other serious offenses are zero? As told by our first and second speakers, the government has been doing a lot to help. The affirmative is punishing the good parents at the expense of wasting people's time.
This is the end of the floor question section. Now, we move on to the free debate session. Each team will have 3 minutes for their part. Time will run on a cumulative basis. For each side separately, at least 3 debaters from each team shall have spoken in this session. The team which is in breach of such a rule will be penalized by a deduction of 5 marks in the scores with each of the adjudicators. Each speaker shall stand up before he or she begins and sit down after finishing his or her speech. The affirmative side and the opposition shall speak in turn until one of the teams has used up the entire duration of time attributed to it. The other side shall then send one of its team members to use up all the remaining duration of time. A warning card will be shown at 2 minutes 30 seconds. The warning bell rung twice at 3 minutes to indicate the team's time has expired. There will be no grace period. The debate may take any verbal form, such as questions, elaboration, and clarification. The affirmative team will speak first.
According to the Queen Anne's government's research, bad parenting skills
are the main reason for child abuse. But providing a better parenting skills can help prevent child abuse. So, do you still think that preventing child abuse is still a waste of resources and time? Thank you.
We know that you are trying to help the poor children. Please think in a broader sense. With the compulsory course, couples may not want babies. The data by Central Intelligence Agency reported that Hong Kong is having the lowest birth rates in the world. South China Morning Post wrote reproduction levels are below the levels at which a population can replace itself. So, I want to ask you a question. Why does the government need to force everyone to take the classes when only some parents are at fault? Your science model is infringing basic human rights. You are intending to set a barrier for parents when they want to have children, which is immoral and unacceptable in modern society. How does your side solve the unfairness posed to those responsible parents?
We want to emphasize that parenting is not only a choice, but a responsibility and obligation for all the people around the world. So why don't we just provide a compulsory parental education to ensure that everyone is received enough knowledge and skills to make parenting effective to affect children's life?
Your plan involves taxpayers' money and manpower deployment. I've told you that the government is doing a lot to help. I'm sorry to tell you that your proposal is not feasible at all. And I want to ask you a question. That is, compulsory classes will not guarantee improved quality of parental care. It is very likely that parents won't even pay attention during the lessons they are forced to attend. How is the administration going to assess a parent's learning? By exam or homework?
I would like to answer by saying that in normal schools where we teach children basic things, some children will not pay attention in class, but the government still decides to go on with teaching children. Also, you cannot assume that every single parent will not benefit from this knowledge. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your question. I think that there are different kinds of parents as well as numerous types of parental care. So different people simply has different preference and definition for a so-called appropriate parental care. How are you one fit for all class going to cater for different needs? And what will happen if parents cannot meet the requirements of class? Can they still have babies? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I would like to say that, first of all, to ask the opposition that they are assuming that that the education system is not going to cater to all parents. However, how can you really know that this education system can only fit one type of parent? Why can't it fit many types of parenting?
Well, as I said, that there are different types of parents, so they have different types of needs. So I don't think that one fit for all class is fit for all the parents. And also I said it's boring that when you are having a talk in the hall, you will not learn initiatively. So I want to ask the side affirmative that there are already many government policies in providing voluntary parental education. So why does your side still insist on opting an entirely new model which can guarantee something that but failure. When is the parently way more effective and time-consuming to refine our existing policy? Thank you.
The parents can consider if they are going to use the skills or the knowledge that they learn from the lesson. The government is not forcing them to use the knowledge that they taught. So if you think that the policy is enough, but how can it be so many child abuse cases were reported to the Child Welfare Department? There's 237 child abuse cases. How can you explain that?
Thank you. The existing policies are of course effective. There are always exceptional cases, and that's why they appear as news. Let me remind you about the meaning of the word compulsory. It means things required by law. So according to the affirmative side by law, people should receive compulsory parental education.
The time for the opposition team has expired.
If the opposition side said the existing policy are effective enough, so how can you explain that there are so many child abuse cases happen around the world? And what we have to clarify is that we must make parental education compulsory because, like what we mentioned before, we want to provide knowledge and skills for different kinds of people to make sure that they know how to deal with parenting and provide some positive influences to their children. And even you said some people, they don't want children at a specific time.
The time for the affirmative team has expired. This is the end of the free debate session. There is now a 1-minute pause while the captain finalizes the summary for the team's case. Preparation time starts now.